What's up, everybody? Let's hang out and talk about this brand new set that's about to drop. This is the Justice Like Lightning Team Pack. It's part of the Avengers Infinity War sort of set that's coming out, or I guess it's Avengers Infinity. Anyway, we're going to sit here and talk and give our opinions on the power levels and the playability of each set. And today I'm joined by the wonderful gentlemen over at the Ministry of Dice. Hello, say hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello, gentlemen.
Introduce yourselves, please, one at a time, or at the same time if you feel like you could do that. That'd be impressive.
Hello, I'm Chris.
You always go first. Why did you wait?
What?
You always go first. Why did you wait for me?
I was going to see if you started at the same time as me, because Steve said, you know, or at the same time if you can do it. Should we try that again?
Epic professionalities. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, okay. Count to three, and then we'll just introduce ourselves at the same time.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
This is going swimmingly. We're doing great. This is great.
We can edit this, right? That's what we usually do.
We could certainly edit it, but I'm not gonna. So this is Chris and Andy. Chris and Andy is part. They have created. Did one of you create it first, or was it like a joint venture creating Ministry of Dice?
So the Ministry of Dice is an offshoot of the BritRoller6.com blog. So I started the blog, and that's just a traditional blog where I used to just type these random ramblings and rants, usually about delivery delays to the United Kingdom for Dice Masters products. And then me and Andy started to get to know each other a little bit through meeting at WKOs and at nationals events and stuff. And we decided to branch out into the exciting world of podcasting.
Andy, you have anything to add to that?
That pretty much sums it up.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Easy, short to the point. Did I see that you guys are just reaching a milestone?
Yes, so it was our 1-year birthday on when was it? The 23rd of July was the official birthday date.
Yeah, so, which is today.
Today.
Yes, it is today. For a few hours.
Yeah, it is today. Yeah, it is today. So, so the reason I'm double guessing myself and talking in circles is because we recorded the episode in advance of it going out.
Yeah,
on the 23rd.
Which is weird, right?
Yeah. So I keep forgetting. But yes, what 1 year me and Andy have been getting together once a week, chatting rubbish, and what was it Tony said in his message? Man crushing each other on the internet and occasionally talking about Dice Masters.
Well, it's cool that you guys have made it to 1 year. Does it feel any different than when you started, like knowing that you've been doing this for an entire year?
Oh, I don't know, Andy, you take this one. Does it feel different?
No, I'm just as rubbish at talking. Got better at editing it. Yeah.
There you go.
Right,
you got better at editing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we've got really good at cutting filler words and naughty words out of conversations.
That is a surprising skill you pick up the more you do editing for anything. I know exactly how to make you sound really good right now. And we all appreciate that. Well, I started listening to you guys, a couple of months ago, right? I think it was a couple of months ago. And I absolutely loved it. It's super fun listening and just kind of hearing you guys hang out. And hearing your insights on the game is really cool as well. So I enjoyed it. I hope everybody else gets a kick out of it as well. And you guys are going to help me review the team pack here, which I find a little bit uncomfortable to look at, because some of these cards are, in my opinion, really hard to judge in a vacuum. What do you guys think? Would you agree?
Yeah, I've just been flicking through them. There's nothing that stands out as, I must have that.
Oh, is that right?
It's all a bit like, that would be really good if 3 things happen exactly like I want it to.
Well, that's super interesting, because I kind of feel in some instances the same way, but in some instances I think to myself, that could be a good standalone card. But before we get into it, let me talk to everybody who's watching about the way that we're ranking these cards. So we're going to rank these A through F, with A's being sort of the auto pick and auto play win conditions, reason to play a team. Like, I see this card, I immediately know exactly where it goes. This could be immediately competitive coming out of the box. It's a linchpin, I have to have it. Examples of this would be something like the super rare Yanti Pureblood, the super rare Norman Osborn. Like if you're drafting in the Thor set, uncommon Malekith and common Hulk, those are immediate pickups and plays if you see them. Bs are cards that are powerful enough to encourage you to play an affiliation or something like a keyword team, encourage you to build around it, but may not be as strong as an A. It's something like a serious ramp or utility card as well, something like the Energy Fixers, Common Mimic from the X-Men First Class set. Any of those Warriors 3 in draft, the moment you see it, it encourages you to pick up the other ones around it. Something like Rare Absorbing Man as well would work, where you double the when fielded effects. You want to build something around it. Cs are playable cards. These are sort of your mid-level cards. You're happy to have a bunch of Cs if you're playing in draft. These are stuff like ramp, utility, control, just middle-level things, nothing super powerful, but it gets the job done in a pinch. This is like Daredevil or Blackheart or Destroyer, all from the Thor set in draft. Those are all fine cards to pick up and they play. Ds are sometimes playable, but you'd prefer not to run them, like low-end removal or very expensive or conditional ramp. Examples of this would be like US Agent or Punisher or Odin, all of those from the most recent Thor set as well. And then Fs are basically unplayable cards, things like Earth X the Skull and just about every Beta Ray build that's ever existed. So that is, unfortunately, that is the way we're going to score these. Sorry, Beta Ray Bill, but you're kind of terrible, kind of trashy. So with that, and we're just going to go down the list of cards in this set. The first thing we're going to look at is this Ant-Man 12mm Marvel. It's a 3-cost fist character. It's got the Thunderbolt and the Avengers affiliation, so it's double affiliated. It's got an 021, 031, and a 152 stat line, and the ability on him says Ant-Man cannot be blocked by higher level character dice or by sidekick character dice. What do you guys think about this card?
Ooh. I suppose I like the thematic fun element. Ties in very well with what the character's all about. But knowing one of the alternatives that's coming up, I might have given it a closer look if there hadn't been the petty thief one that we're about to discuss.
It's hard to compare this to the next one and think, yeah, this card is super, super good. I think it plays, though. Any card that prints an ability that makes things a little bit more difficult for your opponent has some space in something like a draft or a limited format set, or playability in that sense. What do you think, Andy?
It'd be good if it was a 2-cost. I think it'd be loads better if it was a 2-cost. 3-cost, it's a little bit more of a reach. I think you're going to probably get 2 or 3 damage through at the beginning of a game, and then just fizzle from there.
Yeah, it doesn't have a bit of staying power that you would probably want in something like Constructed. It could see some play. I mean, carrying the Avengers affiliation and knowing what we're getting from the Avengers Infinity set in that ID card, it could see some play in something like that. But again, to me, it's hard to stand up to the next one that we're going to look at. So I would give this a C. That's my personal grade. What do you guys give this?
What did I put on the notes? Let's have a look now.
You gave it a C, mate.
Did I give it a C? Thank you. Okay.
Andy, what do you got?
D.
You giving it a D?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just fine playable. I could see an argument for D just because D does sort of stand for you could play it, but why? And because of the next card, I could definitely see us arguing that. So C, and D across the board in that sense. Let's look at the next card because I'm super pumped about the next one. The next one is Ant-Man Petty Theft. It's a 3-cost fist as well. Same affiliations, same stat line. This one says Awaken, and when he awakens, which means when he spins up 1 or more levels, then you get to make him unblockable. He is unblockable until the end of the turn. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, well, I'm well into this one. I'm a little... I have a little bit of a personal problem with Awaken, only because I've been trying to use Awaken with some X-Men First Class characters, and I seem to always roll them on level 3. But in any other circumstance, I'm completely unable to roll characters on level 3. So it traps me with an unusual dice in the field. However, a 3-cost with certainly with a level 3 attack of 5. That you can make unblockable. With a sweet action dice or the right type of global could be devastating.
Yeah, and we're getting the right type of action die and a 2-cost Avengers ID card that's going to pump this 2/2. which is gross. So just buying one of these, and then obviously this has to be handcuffed with mutation. I don't think this goes on any team without mutation if you're constructing. But once you've done that, you get it out, you mutate it up, you trigger the Awaken effect, and all on the same turn that you play the Avengers ID card, and you're getting +2. That's a 7 unblockable. And he's at that point a 4 defense, so you can't really ping him out either.
No, yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, the thing that I found was like you need mutation, and then you're going to need a boat ton of masks. I had a flick through to see if there was any good Swarmer masks in Modern, and there isn't any Swarming masks in Modern. You got multiple man, obviously, in Golden.
Yeah,
but I could see you being short of masks to try and pull everything off.
Just because you're going to need one to spin it down if it is level 3, you think, or you just not expecting to have, the one mask when you need? I only see you really needing the one mask, unless on that very fringe moment where you do need 2, right?
Yeah, but you're probably going to want a few of them.
A few Ant-Men or masks?
Well, both. I'd probably be looking at buying 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
And then you're going to need a load of masks to be able to kind of spin them up.
Well,
ultimately, you're bound to get it level 1, so you're going to want to get it to the level 5.
I mean, even 5 damage going through is pretty decent. And interestingly enough, Avengers ID card is a mask, so you could just scoop up a bunch of 2-cost actions that pump all your Avengers characters +2/+2. This one's already unblockable. You pay some masks to flip it if you've rolled one of those ID cards on a mask instead of on the action face, on the burst face, and then you just push. So I could see this being really good. That's just me, but I think that has some serious playability.
I can definitely see myself using it for sure.
I'm going to give this all the way. This for me teeters between B+ and A- because I do think it needs build around pieces. It's not standalone good. So I'll probably hedge and go B+, just because it does require you to build around it. But once you've built around it, I think this is like really, really strong on the right aggro sort of team and the right aggro shell. What do you guys got?
Yeah, I'm at around a B. I'm a little twitchy about those defense numbers of 1 on the level 1 and 2, just with the prevalence of unstable canister and magic missile.
That's a good point.
In the meta at the minute. And like you say, the fact that you got to kind of build a bit of work around it to make it really impactful. So that's why I've not gone fully in at an A. I'm in at a B. Dead center B.
Yeah, I'll put C.
For what reason?
I think I'm just a bit grumpy and tired.
Well, I think I didn't even think about the fact that magic missile is so prevalent, because it really does kind of need you to get this up to level 3 on the same turn before you pass priority. So that does create a little bit of an issue. Or play this and somehow buff its defense, which we do have a defense buffing global in this team pack, so that might see some play as well. That is a good point, though. It's just an easy ping out. With team up, it's great too, because you got the double affiliations.
Double affiliations, that would pump him up a bit, wouldn't it?
And those are both affiliations that aren't usually seen in a team up team, at least at this point. Though we may see Avengers going forward. So, ABC. Or no, excuse me, BBC. I gave it B as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's keep on trucking. The next one we're going to take a look at is Ant-Man Through the Cracks. Another 3-cost, same affiliations, same stat line, obviously. This one has Amplify. When you use an action die, spin this character up 1 level. How much do you value spinning up 1 level and having no other ability?
Not at all.
Nah.
I give this like a C just because of the stats. Because you're getting closer to like a 5. So in my mind, it's like playable enough. But I could get grumpy and go with a D if need be. What do you guys got?
I'm down in the D. When given a choice, I think you'd always go for petty theft over.
Yeah. Oh, you certainly would. Like, I think if we were talking in some sort of a draft scenario where you're looking at this sort of isolated by itself and understanding that you could at some point see the better of the 3 cards, but knowing that you see this one at that moment, are you judging it as playable? And I think you're definitely not wanting to run this over just not just the other Ant-Man, but a lot of other things. Like you're paying 3 for a 3/1 on average, and that's not great. And maybe it spins up once or twice, but you gotta buy an action to spin it up, and therein lies the issue. So yeah, I'm going D. What you guys
got? D2. Yeah, that's D's all around for that bad boy.
Yes, it is. So we can move on from that gross stuff. Here we go. Now we've got Atlas. And all of these Atlas ones are interesting. This is where things get a little difficult to evaluate, in my opinion, because now we have to start weighing flip sides and flip cards, and there's different flip effects sort of tucked in on all of these cards. This Atlas is Allegiance to Zemo, 6-cost shield, villain, and a Thunderbolts on one side, and on the other side, it's just a Thunderbolt. The stat line is like all over the place. You got an 023 for a 6-drop. You got a 145, and then a 388. What about that stat line? Is that interesting to you?
This isn't the first instance in this team pack where we've got these kind of hinky stat line situations. I am totally meh about this guy.
Let's take a look at the card abilities. The first one says, when fielded or if Atlas is active when flipped to this side, you may spin target non-Atlas character die to level 3. So there's a way to trigger your Ant-Man from earlier in set. And then on the burst phase, which means on his level 3 side, which is where that burst mark resides, you may also spin target Thunderbolt character die to level 3. So if he's on level 3 when you flip this card or when you field him, then you get to do it twice, which is kind of cool. He can also sort of target himself and spin himself up with the first ability, which is kind of nice. It would not trigger the second ability, though. His flip side says, when fielded or if Atlas is active when flipped to this side, you may give target character die Overcrush and Iron Will. So based on both of those flip sides, what are you guys thinking about this card?
It's all right.
He's hard work, isn't he?
Well, actually, is he hard work? That's the question.
I think he's hard work. So I get what you're saying, Stephen. Initially, the return on investment on that purchase cost, especially if you roll him on level 3 and then you're looking down the barrel of that fielding cost as well, makes me think he's hard work just on a kind of standard assessment as the game stands at this moment in time. But then all this other janky game text just makes you think, ugh, is it really worth all that to give someone Overcrush and Iron Will for a turn?
Well, let's think about it, because technically it's Overcrush and Iron Will for a turn, but then, because this is actually technically better than just a when-fielded effect, because this is a when-fielded / or if he's active and at the beginning of the turn you choose to flip this card. So you could potentially pay the 3 to have an 8/8, and then when you pass turn and it comes back to you at the beginning, you flip it, and then you give something Overcrush Iron Will. You keep him out in the field, then you flip it again on the beginning of your turn, spin something up, flip it again, and you just keep using the effect because it's sort of like a mix of both when fielded and while active. So the idea of using it multiple times and just keeping the character out in the field is, to me, pretty intriguing and doesn't seem as much of a setup because you just leave him out there and just keep flipping him.
Yeah, to get what you want out of him, you're going to have to flip him every turn, and then you get spin up, so you get some Awaken shenanigans going on one turn.
Yeah.
Next turn, flip him, and you give some Overcrush and Iron Will. Maybe you've given Overcrush and Iron Will to what you've just got up to level 3.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of work, isn't it? You're looking at, 2-3 turns to get him out there, another turn to roll something up, another turn to give it Overcrush.
And let's not forget that you're going to need another dice in that field that you want spun up to level 3.
Sure.
It's going to make some impact when given Overcrush and Iron Will, and that then takes your team down the route of looking for another high TFC card potentially.
But does it though? Do you have to have another high cost card? Because this targets anything. It can give anything Overcrush, even like a 4-drop that has decent stats. You're not guaranteed to spin it up, but you have an opportunity to spin it up. You could even play this on with a bunch of 2-drops, and then give one of them Overcrush and Iron Will, as long as they're well statted. this sort of just becomes like an engine, flipping back and forth, making your characters big, giving them overcrush, making your characters big, giving them overcrush. In that sense, I see this as being something that I would be interested in building around. And it may end up being really slow. And again, I think this is why this is a hard set to evaluate without playing it over and over. But I see overcrush as a really powerful ability because it just guarantees you some sort of damage most of the time. And I see Iron Will being okay. And then I see Spinning Up being okay. And I think, well, there's something there. So I would give this a B. What do you guys think?
No, I'm still not convinced, Stephen. I'd say there's when you look at something like Rare Sasquatch, for example, out of the X-Men First Class set that comes with Overcrush already built into the card, and the spin up mechanic when your opponent uses a global, and you can do it with a single 5-cost purchase without having to go through all the around the houses that you're having to do with this. I just can't see it.
Well, would you not take that in a draft?
Would I take Atlas in a draft?
Yeah. Would you pick this up in some sort of a draft or a limited format?
Possibly. I think my concern with taking it in a draft is just going back to your comment. Then I'm committing to have to build around it. Then
yeah, you are. Well, you can give anything. You can't use the burst ability in a draft unless you pick up a Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
But you could throw anything over Crush and Iron Will. You do have to find a way to ramp to it in a draft, though. That is a problem. Because 6 is no easy feat.
I'm still down on it, dude. All
right, what you got then? What's your a D? Yeah. Okay, Andy, what you got?
So why does his helmet only protect his eyebrows?
That's the source of his power.
Yeah, I think
his eyebrows.
This is another example of your comic book lore letting you down, Andy. Because if you did read comic books like myself and Steamwood, you would know that actually Atlas, there's like this whole thing around this Greek god dude who bestowed him with a powerful monobrow that had magical power. I think it used to be a mystical caterpillar that was then transformed into a magical monobrow for Atlas.
I forget what edition that was. You just gotta pick it up. There's always time. There's always time to catch up.
The mystical caterpillar alone, he's got some great one-liners.
Nice. It's a little bit like the grasshopper out of Pinocchio. What was his name?
I don't think so.
Jiminy Cricket.
Jiminy Cricket. Yeah, Jiminy Cricket.
Jiminy Cricket. Yeah.
I'll give it a C-. He's got potential,
there you go.
But
so
it's just a bit complicated.
I think the purchase cost, him being 6, certainly is a bit prohibitive. At the very least. Let's look at the next one. The next version of Atlas is Eric Jostin, I think. He's got the flip mechanic, so he flips as well, like the last one does. This one's on the burst face. You must attack, if able, if you're pushing with that top side on both sides. So he's literally just a 5-drop, like 8/8 on top that has to attack, or a 4/4 or a 2/3, or a 4/5 or a 2/3. What do we think?
Nah.
I don't know if I want to pay 5 for a 2/3. That's my biggest issue.
Yeah, and I like if I've paid a 3 fielding cost as well for an 8/8, I'd like to decide when it attacks, please.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe you don't. Maybe you just push literally every turn, but it doesn't provide any upside for keeping it in the field. And it doesn't really provide any upside for leaving it in, like, attacking. I guess an 8/8 attacking is always good. Important to note, there's a villain affiliation on one side and a non-villain affiliation. Like, they take it away. But
yeah, that's the only difference, isn't it? That he's non-villain on one side.
Which is what they used to do with the Batman set too. They would just take away an affiliation for some of those flip cards. Does that factor in any way, shape, or form to you guys? Is sort of picking and choosing on how this card rates?
One less knobby damage.
Yeah. But you even put it in that deck? I mean, I wouldn't.
Against it.
Playing against it, certainly. You flip it and leave it.
Yeah, that would be the only thing I could think of.
But then you like never want to flip it either. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, I don't like this card. I give this a D.
Yeah, I'm with a D. In fact, I'm going down to E.
Oh, whoa. The intermediary. That's not how alphabet works, I don't think. Not in grading. Isn't that right?
I got E's.
You got E? Okay. A, B, C, D, F,
E's
right?
Good. Evan, E's
American education. A, B, C, D,
Anybody
F.
got a Vera?
Lovely.
Lovely.
I gave it a D.
All right, so we got D across the board for this one, and it's not very good. I think we can agree on that one. Last one is Purged of Pym Particles. This one also has that same affiliation thing. It's back to a 6-drop. The one side has Amplify, so whenever you use an action die, it's going to spin up. And then when he uses Amplify, that is when you flip the card. But to note, he also has this Pay Fist once per turn on your turn, prep a die from your bag. So it's like a Resurrection Global, but it's on a fist. So technically you could stick this and Resurrection on your team, and you could do this twice. Fancy. If you manage to amplify him and flip the card, then on the backside he says, while he is active, your Thunderbolt character dice gain Overcrush. If Atlas is not active, flip this card. So he cannot stay on the side of the Overcrushing ability if he's not out in the field. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm definitely more into this one than I have been the previous two. I think he could be the cornerstone of a Thunderbolts-themed team. And I do like a good single affiliation theme night down the FLGS. So you've got your kind of ramp assistance to begin with, and then get him out, and then flip him over, and he's giving everybody Overcrush. So I'm a bit more into this one, but I can only really see it in the instance of playing a Thunderbolts-only team.
I could see it in that instance, and then I could also see it just, I don't want to run Resurrection. I want 2 slots open on my competitive team, but I still want a global ramp. I throw this on in that place. I could see that as well.
Yeah, for sure, with just a single dice on him.
Mm-hmm.
Although, I don't know what I'd do. It's interesting that he's a shield character with a fist global.
That is interesting. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, especially where Resurrection is traditionally shields. I mean, I never build around shields, so Resurrection's always handy for just somewhere to dump shields off into to make them useful.
Yeah. Well, I think any global that just says pay something and then prep a die is always playable and is always something to consider going on a team. And to be able to bury one of your 8 slots where sometimes you don't actually need all 8 slots after you've kind of filled out your team, to be able to bury that global there and play an extra basic action is something interesting.
Yeah, I think the same. If you wanted to use 2 different basic actions and you didn't want to lose res, then it's a good option. And I quite liked it. You can use an action dice. You can use the fist. You get a bit of extra ramp, so you can afford to buy the 6 cost and a cheap action.
That's true.
And then if you've got a few Thunderbolts, which I think there's quite a few now, aren't there?
The entirety of this set is what you get for Thunderbolts, and then you've got 2 promos. I think you've got an Ant-Man promo, so that nixes your ability to run one of the Ant-Mans in this set if you're running that. And you've got, is there a Wasp as well? Or no, it's like a Baron Zemo that's got Thunderbolts on it, which is weird.
Yeah,
but that's Citizen V. Anyway, I like this card. I think you'll actually see this on some teams. I think it's a build around, so that would automatically make it a B because this is your win condition for a Thunderbolts team, which, you know, we don't know if that's actually competitive or not. But if you're building a Thunderbolts team, then you put this on there because you want everything to have Overcrush, and that's hard to deal with. And then on top of that, you've got just a really strong global that's run on like a ton of teams, which is basically the res global. It's just a fist now. And so for that reason, I would give this like right on the edge, B plus A minus.
Yeah, I went in at a B minus, I think, originally in my original notes, because I can absolutely see me playing it in a Thunderbolts themed team.
Yeah.
Okay, C plus. That was all right.
There you go.
All right.
Next one, we're going to shift characters. Now we're on to Citizen V. This is the Justice Like Lightning version, and this one is a 6-drop mask character. On one side, he's got just the Thunderbolt. On the other side, obviously, he's got the villain and Thunderbolt. That's kind of the thing with this set. His stat line is really funky. It's an 022, 154, 176. So again, more funky stat lines. On one side, he says while he's active, your non-villain character dice get +1/+1. And then on the other side, it says when fielded, just when fielded, you may flip any number of other Thunderbolts cards. What do you guys think?
I think the +1/+1 for non-villains is not enough for a 6 purchase cost.
I agree.
Yeah, Professor X does it better.
Yeah, well, giving you any benefit whatsoever. He's a 7/6 versus a 2/8 for the Professor X, right? Is the Professor X buffs everything, or does it buff?
I thought, was he not
sidekicks?
Just defense, Professor X?
Oh, he does sidekicks. +1 attack. Is he just +1 defense?
I think he's like. Let's look it up real quick. What is it?
I've got him here.
Take a gander.
Oh, it's +2 defense.
Yeah, he does what the Captain America does. Yeah. So the +1/+1 is certainly more interesting. So this is basically like a really, really worse version of like what Malekith does to sidekicks, giving them +1/+1, making them 2/2s. It's a bad version of what like Wrecker does for villains, giving them +1/+1. Both of those are 4 costs. This is a 6 cost that you have to pay for. On the upside, you're getting a 7/6. I originally had this as like a B or B- in my head. It kept drifting down the more I looked at it. I'm probably dropping this to a C.
Yeah, it's costing his stats are the only good thing about it.
Well, and you're even. It's possible to hit an 022 on a 6 drop. Do I want an 022 on a 6 drop ever? No, you're just crying when that happens.
No, and the reward, the stat bump for the rest of your cards is not enough for me. It's not enough.
I mean, you could argue that getting all of your sidekicks +1/+1 is just really generally pretty good, and for that reason, it's playable. Man, the more I think about this card, the more I just dislike it. Is that bad? Is that wrong, gentlemen?
No, I don't think it is wrong, Stephen. I think you'd go for in that instance you've described there, you'd go for a Malekith, wouldn't you, any day of the week? If you were looking to try and
because it also gives an affiliation at that point, which is nice to sidekicks. This gives it to everything. I don't know, man.
Yeah. It's non-villains. There's a lot of villains being used on teams at the moment. If I was looking for a stat bump for something more aggressive, I'd always lean more towards, I don't know, like Baby Bard. What's his name? Birdsong.
That's true. Birdsong does do this.
Or a bit of team up to get the stats together for it, and they come at a much more favourable cost in comparison. Yeah, I'm not into this guy at all.
So what do you guys give it?
I think I gave it a D, but I think I might be dropping.
Looks like you have down a C-, and that's kind of where I was hanging.
No, I'm at a D now. I talked myself into a D.
Right? It's so easy to. The more you look at cards like this, the more you go, is this really worth the purchase cost? Is it worth dropping 6 to give everything +1/+1 as long as it stays in the field? Oops, it's a 2/2. It's not staying in the field for long.
Yeah.
I'm dropping on this one too. We should probably go past it before I go even further. Andy, what do you got on this one?
E.
Going down.
E.
This is a bad one. Let's keep going then. New World Order is a 6 drop as well. This one, oh, jeez. Okay. I don't know what I put on this card, but I should have changed it. So wait, maybe I'll talk myself into it. All right. It's a 6 drop. It's got Infiltrate on one side. Okay, so that means when it's unblocked, like if your opponent doesn't block it, you can instead just deal your opponent 1 damage and it comes back to the field zone. When fielded, target character die gets +2 defense. No one cares about that. Whatever, right? When Citizen V uses Infiltrate, flip this card. So you have to first use Infiltrate or find some other way of flipping this card in order to get to this side. And this side is Retaliation. So if an affiliated character is KO'd, deal 1 damage to an opposing player. He's the villain side on this, and then it says while Citizen V is active, your villain character dice get +1 and Overcrush, +1 attack and Overcrush. And again, if he's not active, you have to flip this. So he has to be out for this ability to sort of trigger or to this aura to be going constantly. What do you think?
Can you flip it at the beginning of the turn? Is it only when you use
Infiltrate?
No,
it doesn't have the flip effect. So it's only flipping in one of two ways. One, you've used the Infiltrate effect on Citizen V, and so then you flip it based on his text. Or two, he's active and you play Bat Signal, and you land Bat Signal on one of the two burst faces. So 1 and 3 along with Bat Signal means you can flip this guaranteed. So those are the two ways. Those are the only two ways to flip a flip card. Yeah. By text or with the ability. What do you think based on that? I mean, I think giving something the Grodd ability, +1 attack and Overcrush, is strong, but for that amount of work, what do you think?
That's a lot of hoops, isn't it? A lot of hoops to jump through. So thematically, it's quite a clever card. You know, for the comic book fans out there, it is very reflective of who he is and what he's all about in the comic book storyline that he appears in. So I can sort of see why they've built a card this way. But yeah, that's a lot of hoops to jump through. That's a big rigmarole for the payoff.
So to put it in perspective, here's what you basically have to do in order to get him on that side. Assuming we don't have Bat Signal because we don't want to give up one of our cards for Bat Signal on our team, you have to buy a 6-drop, get him in the field, attack with him until the point where your opponent can't block him or chooses not to block him. At that point, you Infiltrate, and then you flip him and you get the Grodd ability. Plus, you get this nice little deal 1 damage every time they KO one of your villains. Now, that all sounds fairly whatever. That sounds okay if you have him on a 7/6, because your opponent kind of wants to block a 7/6 in general. Otherwise, they take a little bit less than half their health doing so. But if he's on a 2/2, then they just let it through, and you weep openly onto your mat. And at what point do you actually get any benefit from this card if you can't flip him? Now, assuming you put Bat Signal on, then your steps are this. You have to get Bat Signal out in the field. You have to get Citizen V out in the field. That's 8 or 7, depending on if you're running the rare Bat Signal. That's 7 energy right there. You have to use and then flip. Use Bat Signal and then flip this, and now you've got the effect. So I don't like either of those lines of play.
No.
So,
if it was a 6 cost with the second half of the villain Thunderbolt character side just there, I'd be in.
Yeah, if you could just throw it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you say, in the Grodd effect style of just buying my 7 cost and getting it out. But
it's really powerful if you can do it. So maybe for that reason I'll give it like a C or a C-, but it's just really like, if your opponent's got any sense, they're not gonna ever unblock this, or they're gonna let it go through. I guess they can't really let it go through because you infiltrate at that point. So that scenario setup isn't quite accurate, because then the moment they let it go through, even on a 2/2 side, it's just infiltrate back. So for that reason, it's a little better.
Okay.
So it's always blockable. Like, you always have to block it as your opponent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe
Dimension Door.
Say that again.
You got Dimension Door out just to add to the complications.
You play Dimension Door, you make him unblockable. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And then you trigger Infiltrate.
Or Super Rare Angela.
Yeah, that's true. Or you somehow stick this 6-drop on a Super Rare Angela, and then there's no villain cards on your team as well.
But then if you're doing if you're doing that, you might as well have Super Rare Angela, and then
exactly.
Maybe one of the new Kree, what is it, the Kree captains, I think, or maybe the Kree warriors with Infiltrate and Spot and the gang, the Infiltrate gang. Why would you bother then?
So essentially what we're all saying is, even like if we were sitting across the board from this, right, we feel comfortable just chump blocking like an average 5/4 every turn while we set up a win condition and kill our opponent.
Yeah.
I
mean,
I feel comfortable.
If you want to infiltrate me for 1 or retaliate me for 1 every turn, then fill your boots for the effort. That is a little win that you deserve for getting that out in the field and doing all that. Good on you, is what I say.
Just because of the power level of that second side, though, I could see people building around this card. Like, it calls out to be built around because it wants you to put villain character dice on your team. Does that make it good?
Yeah.
Probably not, but it'll be tried. It'll be tried. What do you guys
pair
give
him
it?
up with a Malekith and make a villain sidekick team.
Right? It would be one of the only expensive things on your team, so it could go there. That was my thought too.
It's getting that infiltrate done to flip him. They really hosed him with that.
Yeah. It makes it a lot more tame. I'll give this a C, like right down the middle. And again, I think this is really hard to grade without actually playing it.
Yeah, I think that's generous, but I'll go C too. I think I put something ridiculous like B on the original note. Don't know what I was thinking.
Andy, what do you got? D?
D.
That may end up. It may end up just being that. I mean, what's the point of running this when you could do similar things with other abilities? It may not be exactly the same, but it's similar. You know, Overcrush is powerful. Yeah. Overcrush is powerful, but is it worth that amount of hoops? The last one of Citizen V, 6-drop, the Mask of Helmet, same thing, same affiliations. This one has a when fielded effect on the first side. Target character die gets +2 attack. Okay, that's fine. While Citizen V is active, if a non-Citizen V character die damages an opponent, flip this card. So you just need any of your dice to damage your opponent, to go unblocked, basically, or to deal some sort of a damage. So then you flip this card, and then you get, while Citizen V is active, your villain character dice get +1/+1. Okay. So you've managed to get +1/+1. Hooray! You've paid 6 and you've jumped through a hoop to do exactly what Common Wrecker from the Thor set does for 4.
Yeah.
This card's an F. This card is, I mean, it's playable in the sense that like you could literally purchase it, but it should be like on a coffee table somewhere gathering dust.
Yeah, well, with a drink on it as a coaster.
Yeah, exactly. Do we agree on that? That to me is an F. Like that's a good explanation for an F.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one we could just move on from because that's gross. Now we have Hawkeye, and Hawkeye's an interesting little character. We've got a 3-cost bolt. He has the Thunderbolt and Avengers affiliation, an 031, 041, 142 stat line. He says when fielded, spin target opposing character die to level 1. Quick thoughts on this one?
I like it. It's all right.
Yeah, it's okay. It does well enough. It's a bit of a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, he really does like one thing, right? Does exactly one thing. So for me, I would give this like a C-. It's like exactly a little under average, you know? You got a 4/2 on top, which is nice. He spins something down, which is nice. But other than that, you've got not a lot of upside.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I might even go down a bit more to a D.
So playable, but you don't necessarily want to.
Yeah.
I could see people picking this up in a limited format just because it doesn't really have that much of a downside outside of being able to be pinged out on bottom. But if you're in a limited format, you're less likely to see a ping global.
Yeah, and I just think there's better Hawkeyes about.
Yeah, we're about to see some. Andy, what do you got for this one in mind?
Yeah, I didn't mind him. I thought C. I mean, he's quite cheap. You can get him. You're going to want to keep him churning, so you can keep throwing 3 and 4 attacks at your opponent.
It's true.
Every time he comes out, he's going to just be niggly annoying. And someone's got something set up with a certain amount of attack. He comes out and he's going to roll it down. So I think he's all right. I'd give him a C.
All right. Let's go to the next one. Hawkeye taking aim is a 5-drop bolt. With that stat line, all of a sudden that stat line's looking really bad for a 5-drop. So his ability better be really good. It says when fielded, deal damage to target opponent equal to Hawkeye's level. So that would be if he's on level 1, he would deal 1 damage to your opponent, 2 to your opponent, or 3 to your opponent. He's also got a global that says pay a bolt, deal 1 damage to target's sidekick character die. So there's a sidekick ping. Does that make this card any good?
Isn't that like a really rubbish version of his AVX?
Yes,
card?
Yes, it is. It is a very bad version.
It's that purchase cost, isn't it? That the AVX version was. So if I was given, there's a Huntress, isn't there, in the Batman set that's still legal in modern, which is was it? Is it level or attack?
That one's by attack.
Yeah, and what's her attack numbers? 3,
it's like
4,
2, 3, 4, or something like that.
Yeah, I'd probably be more inclined to go for her at a 3 cost than this.
Than this at a 5 cost.
Yeah, it's just too high a cost. I do like the global well enough, only because I'm into shooting sidekicks at the moment, because I regularly play with someone who's obsessed with Mimic Ramp.
In that aspect, it's pretty good, right? In the exact aspect of killing Mimic Ramp or killing, like, if someone's running Dark Side, take out the one Swarm sidekick.
Yeah.
But for this, I mean, maybe because it opens up a slot in your basic actions, maybe that's good. I don't like this card personally. I don't like it much at all.
Yeah.
I don't know why they nerfed the AVX version, because what was that, 4 cost on it dealt is attack damage. I don't think that was, I mean, it was really good, but I don't think it was meta shakingly broken.
Going forward, I don't see it being that either. I mean, it KOs a Shriek every time if that's the ability, but right now this does literally nothing but ping your opponent for a few points of damage, and you're not buying more than 1 because it's 5.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have that global coming in that you, like, pay 2 and reduce something purchase cost by 3 or something like that, but is that even worth going for at this point? Not really.
No. Yeah, I've just looked up that Huntress I was mentioning before. So she's a 3-cost bolt. When fielded, deal damage equal to Huntress's attack to target character die. You bang on the button there, Stephen, with it's 2, 3, 4 on that attack number.
Yeah, it's a solid thing.
I'd go for that.
Yeah, this is a D, and maybe it's a D because of the global, but otherwise this card is, to me, basically unplayable.
Yeah.
It's really pointless.
It's no good.
It's quintessential D. Like, you could play this card for a couple of reasons, but there's better cards out there to do it, like to do the same thing. The last of the Hawkeyes is World's Greatest Marksman, a 3-cost bolt. We should mention that all of these have double affiliations, the Avengers and the Thunderbolts. And this one says, when fielded, KO target opposing sidekick character die. So there's your sidekick hate. Do you like this better? What do you think about this?
No, I don't like it any better. Because once you've got him out in the field, he's just, you got to find a way of recycling then, haven't you, to make any use of that. So if I was looking to kill sidekicks, then, as we've already mentioned, I'd go with the previous one for the global, or go with a much more usable generic one like Magic Missile or Unstable Canister.
Right? Because you throw this out there, it's like one of those on a stick, so I guess you're paying 2 plus that 1 trigger of that ability in that sense, and you've got a 4/2, so that, or a 4/1 if you don't want to pay anything. The only upside I can think is, like, this KO's the thing that would always chump and KO him. But everyone fields multiple sidekicks.
Yeah, it's bobbins.
Yeah, it's not great, is it?
I don't think so. You guys give it what?
I will never be putting this one on a team ever.
You want to? Oh, are you gonna go F?
Yeah, I can't see me playing this ever. Even if you were talking about single affiliation, we quite often play golden single affiliation. I can think of 3 or 4 Hawkeyes alone that would be much better than this. You know.
Well, if I were to take
Bishop on a team before I put this on,
would you really? That's strong.
Yeah,
that's strong words. Well, that's true. You do put her on every team. If I were to gather up all of these cards into a pile along with the cards from Avengers Infinity, and we were to sit down and cube draft, I could see myself taking this, like, last pick, you know, or like 2 picks from the end, just because it does something and it's, like, got some decent affiliations. So for that reason, I'll give this like a D. Like, you could play it, but there's just so many more things that you could play that are better. So I don't know why you would.
Yeah, I'm an E.
Oh yeah, I'll go D. He's all right. He's relatively cheap.
Exactly, and that's another saving grace. At least he's not a 6-drop that does this. So there's that, right? I'm excited about the next few. I kind of like these Mach 1s. They're interesting to me. So let's look at Mach 1 Abe Jenkins. This is a 4-cost bolt character. One side has Thunderbolts, one side has Villain and Thunderbolts, so double affiliated. An 032, 1432, 54 stat line. The 2-cost on top is a little uncomfortable, but it's a 4-drop. You're getting a 5/4. That's not bad. One side says flip, obviously, but then it says when Mach 1 attacks, he gets +1 attack and +1 defense. So if we were to sort of scale that onto his stat line, you're looking at, if he's attacking on his level 1 side, he's a 4/3, a 5/4, or a 6/5. And then if you flip him, he's got Overcrush. So based on that, what do you think?
Yeah, a 4-cost Overcrusher with those numbers on level 2 and level 3 is much more attractive to me than some of the stuff we've seen so far, for sure.
I would pick this card up in a draft.
Yeah, in a draft, absolutely, you can make this work.
I'm not really a massive fan of Overcrush for 5 attack or under.
Just because you don't think it gets through enough?
No, you don't really do enough. I like his first face better, just to give him an extra +1. Makes him 4, 5, 6, doesn't he?
Well, you know, the nice thing about what Overcrush does and why I think it is such a powerful ability is because it requires them to have some sort of an answer, or they're taking damage for free. You know, like that, you can't block this with a sidekick ever, because then you're just getting like whittled down slowly, and they're just keeping something out there for free. You're sort of not baiting them into it, but you're asking them, okay, do you want to take free damage, or do you want to somehow KO this thing, or like double, triple block just so you don't take a little bit of damage? And anything that does that is upside to me. So I like it a little better just in general. Whenever something has Overcrush, it's worth considering because it can complicate things for your opponent.
Yeah, solid. Makes them think.
Yeah, give your opponent those tough choices.
Well, even I just buy this turn 1, and now all of a sudden you have to buy something that deals, or at least blocks this. You fielding 2 sidekicks isn't gonna deal with me having an Overcrush 5/4 or an Overcrush even a 4/3. Your 2 sidekicks that you fielded because you were really happy with the idea of like ramp, buy a big guy turn 2 or 3, something like that. That line doesn't play anymore. So all of a sudden they have to change up their game plan, or I get like 4 free damage or 3 free damage twice, you know?
That first face makes that Overcrushing Citizen V a little bit more interesting, doesn't it?
To give all your villains Overcrush?
Yeah, and +1 attack, wasn't it?
Yeah, I could see that. Another reason why it's interesting to look at those other cards in not just in a vacuum, but in comparison to the rest of this set, because this is a 4-drop. So you could buy this, you know, ramp with you know, some global that gives you 2, like a Heimdall, and then buy that turn 3 and somehow work your way into flipping it. But I think this on its own is just a decent card.
Yeah. You could just slot him on a team, let him do its thing.
Yeah. What do you guys give this?
Beat.
Nice.
Build high around? C I am at. High C I'm at.
I'm at high C as well. I think it's just under the idea. I don't think I would go, all right, Mach 1, I'm going to build around this card. I think he just slots in anywhere. I think that's why, for me, he's like a perfect C+. But I think right in that range is a good place for this card. It's worth considering and worth looking at because it just is pretty good. The next one is Mobile Armored Cyber Harness. That's a 4-drop bolt as well. Same sort of thing, the flip sides and the affiliations. On one side, this has a tune, which is a good ability, we can all agree. And then it says, when Mach 1 uses a tune 2 or more times in a turn, flip this card. So in order for that to happen, you'd have to play 2 actions. And then on the other side, this says a tune. And while Mach 1 is active, when you field a Thunderbolt character die, deal 2 damage to target character die. If Mach 1 is not active, obviously flip this back over. So it can only be on that card, or only be on that side if he's out there in the field. But you have to flip him to that side using either a tune or bat signal.
Yeah. I'm not sure what to make of this one, if I'm being honest.
And this is where it gets so confusing for some of these cards, because like you really have to build something and go, no, this card just isn't worth it, before you can really know if this card is super good or not.
Use a tune 2 or more times, then flip it.
Yeah,
then
so
you've got your tune sitting there.
The way I saw this, and I was thinking about it before this, and I came to a conclusion of like, this is okay, is like, if you put this on with the bat signal, the rare one that gives +1 attack to, well, actually it can't give +1 attack to non-villains, can it? I can't remember if that bat signal, that 1 cost, can give +1 attack to everything. It's just non-villains.
Non-villains, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Let's see, bat signal.
Yeah,
I have it pulled out right here. Yeah, to target non-villain character die +1. Well, even if you don't use it on him, you could use it on anything. So really, all you need to do is play bat signal, that would technically trigger one of the 2 attunes. So if you played 2 attune or 2 bat signals, then you would be able to flip this card. But even just rolling bat signal on one side means that this flips, and then you could actually play that bat signal onto the flipped side where the villain affiliation is taken off. So he has some playability in that sense, I see.
Yeah. I see take 2 lots of damage from super rare, you anti-flip this card.
Yeah, right?
Field another Thunderbolt, knock out your anti.
Yeah, this does not seem playable and competitive, I will say that. And for that reason, I would not give this anywhere near like an A or even really a B.
Oh, whoa. So what you said? Sorry, Andy. So what you're saying is you put this on your team to tech against super rare Yuanti?
Yeah, I mean, it's not good. I think it'd be great, but there Yuanti fires off your attune. So they do it twice. You then flip it because you've used it twice. Then in your turn, you field a Thunderbolt and knock out their Yuanti. But then all they're going to do is bring it back next turn.
Well, and I see that second side being the really powerful side because you can use your own actions, or obviously, like you're saying, have it as a sort of a counter for a tune, but then also have an additional board clearing ability of fielding Thunderbolt's character dice. So I see that side being pretty interesting, whereas the first side is just okay. And takes a little bit of work to get it over, unless you're exactly running this, paying 4 to counter Yuanti Pureblood. Do you think that's gonna fly?
Nah,
probably not.
I think in any other format except like high competitive, this is a pretty decent card though, especially if you can trigger it onto the other side. You're obviously putting this on a Thunderbolts thing, so you can use the second portion of the ability to help clear the board. So in that sense, this to me seems like a C+, or a really close B-, because you do build around it in that sense. What do you guys got for it?
Go on, Andy.
I would say I don't mind him. I'll give him a C+. Quite like it. It's got some. It's easier to use than the other ones because the tune is relatively straightforward.
Yeah.
There's something about. I'm going to give it a C+2. I'm just going to go with the group think. There's something about it just sort of doesn't feel right to me, but I can't put my finger on why.
Interesting. I feel like we all sort of believe it's middle of the road, maybe a little bit better though. So maybe we all agree, and the agreement is enough. Who knows?
I think with a game text, like I think this may be what's not sitting right with me, but with a game text where you need to field something to initiate it, I want to be in a position where I can repeat field, and I'm not sure I've seen another Thunderbolt character that I'd want to be cycling round to kick off that second part of Side B's game text.
Yeah, we haven't gotten any 2-drops yet, have we?
Yeah.
Well, let's keep trucking on because I know there is one in this set. So the next one we're going to look at is another Mach 1. This is Need for Speed. Same everything. 4-drop, fill in, all that sort of thing. The one side says when fielded, or if Mach 1 is active when flipped to this side, and he has the flip keyword, so you can trigger this ad nauseum, your Thunderbolt character dice cannot be blocked by lower level character dice. So sort of like the Ant-Man thing, but it applies to all of your Thunderbolt character dice. And then it says on the other side, when fielded or if Mach 1 is active when flipped, your Thunderbolt character dice get +2 attack. How do we feel about that?
Yeah, so this certainly makes Atlas spinning my characters up to level 3 much more interesting.
Yeah, right. There's some synergy there, certainly.
So a Thunderbolt build with Atlas on his side A, paired up with this guy, suddenly becomes pretty terrifying. So get Atlas spinning everyone up to level 3, get this guy out so that they can't be blocked by lower level characters. Yeah, I'd be much more interested in this guy paired up with something like that.
So yeah, at least makes you want to pair him with something. I think the idea of getting him out for 4 and then just flipping him ad nauseum, even maybe flipping him more than once a turn, like at the beginning of the turn, you give everything +2 attack, then sometime during the turn you flip it, and then make sure that your opponent doesn't have easy blocks, makes this guy seem really interesting to me, and worth, for me, the B ranking.
Yeah, this might be where your Hawkeye spinning things down becomes a bit more interesting as well.
Oh, that's true. You have a little bit of combo there, right?
Yeah, although I'd like to be able to use that Hawkeye multiple times. That would be one to figure out how you do that.
Yeah, he's similar to what was it we had, the Atlas, which did something, and then you flip it and does something else. I just can see that you'd end up with...
You flip it that's literally what it is. Yeah, that's actually what it is.
You could just have, right, I want all, to be unblockable to most things, but actually I want more attack, and then when I want more attack, I want to be unblockable. I could just imagine it just being a pain getting it. It's going to be on the wrong side every time.
It might be. Well, I think therein lies another sort of aspect of the game we haven't covered yet, which is the idea of setting up your board state before the game even starts in the way that you'd want it. And then playing towards where your cards are flipped, and then knowing like 2 turns ahead, okay, it looks like the board state's going this direction. I'm going to probably want this on this side. And then just leaving it there until you're ready to begin. And maybe that's like a skill sort of thing. Maybe that ups the player skill aspect of the game. Or maybe that's just another way for RNG to totally mess you. Because, oh man, the board totally flipped. But I see it more of possibly being a skill thing.
It's just a bit complicated. I like it a bit simpler.
Does it offer enough upside for the complication? And with the flip word being on, the flip keyword being on the card itself, I think it offers enough upside in my mind for this to be like a solid B, middle of the road B.
I'm a high C.
I'm a middly C.
So we just kind of step down from there.
Yeah, I just can't quite see myself when building a team and looking for 4 costs to do things that would have this kind of impact. I think I can think of better 4 costs.
Oh, I certainly could too. The way I think I'm viewing this set, and I had to teach myself this, or not teach myself, but I had to come to this conclusion. The way I'm viewing this set is a lot more from like a limited perspective than constructed, because I don't think a lot of these stand up constructed wise. Like if I were to give something an A in this set, it would be because I think it actually could see some sort of constructed play, versus this where I don't think you're ever seeing this on a real constructed team unless somehow someone puts together a Thunderbolts affiliation team that just goes crazy, which would be cool, which would be really cool. In this case, and this thing would be kind of interesting as a 4-drop part of that, but it's very mid-range. So BCC, the way we step down.
Yep.
The next character is Meteorite. This one's Daughter of the Kree. 4-drop, has the flip thing, has the flip keyword. One side says when fielded, or if a meteorite is active when flipped to this side, when you field a Thunderbolt character die, prep a die from your bag. And then on the other side it says when fielded, or if meteorite was active when flipped to this side, when you field a Thunderbolt character die, target Thunderbolt character die you control gets +2 attack. So again, this is one of those moments where you actually get to choose when this sort of triggers. 1, by flipping it yourself, but 2, also this is a when fielded effect that has that, while active ability on it.
Yeah, I'll pass on this one, thanks.
This does provide the only source of ramp outside of the global that we've seen thus far in this set, though. Does that matter?
Yeah. Well, I suppose operating by the merits of the set itself, I don't know. No, I don't think it does.
I don't think it does either, because you've got to either field this or flip it to the right side the turn that you're actually planning on fielding any Thunderbolt character die. And so let's assume that you field like 1 character, you've prepped 1 die. Woohoo! Like no one's jumping up and down to prep a die because you flipped it to that side.
Yeah, it's just not got it, has it?
No, this card is pretty trashy. Even though it looks good on paper, like, oh, there's ramp and there's some buffing. But no, I don't think this card does a lot for you. I should mention the stat lines are 031, 142, and a 254. So you've got a 5-4 side on top, but
yeah, 2 fielding costs though.
Andy, you love this card?
No, I don't like it. It's
I don't like it.
Don't like it.
Don't like it.
No, I'm not a fan of this card either. I'm gonna give this like, I don't know, let's C- or a D+, something like that. Because it looks good on paper until you think you actually try to use it. Because at best you're fielding what, 2 Thunderbolts character die, so on this turn that you've managed to flip it to the right side, and then you prep 2. And that's just not good enough.
It'd be all right. Do you know those games that you play and you've been playing for like 2 hours and you've bought every character that you've got, and you get to that point where you just roll in, and every turn you've just got like handfuls of dice.
We'll see.
If you put her out, then you can imagine you'd have like a cracking turn, prepping loads of dice and giving it loads of buffs. But it would take about 2 hours to get there.
And that's the kind of team that I want to build for. That's the board state I'm looking to create, is one of those terrible 2-hour slogs. That's the way to do it right there. Did I mention I'm giving this a D? I'm giving this a D.
I'm with you. D for me. Please, Bob.
D.
Oh, move on. Next. Dr. Carla Sofa, and this is a 4-drop. She's got the flip effect, so you can actually just flip her like the past ones have been. When fielded, your character dice get +1 attack. On the other side, it says, when Meteorite is active, while she's active, your opponent cannot attack with more than 2 character dice.
I like the sound of that.
Is that cool?
Yeah. Go on, Andy.
Yeah, no, I like this one. I like the second side more than the first, but the first one's not bad.
I mean, it's a wind-fielded effect, so that's okay.
You get, filled her out with enough dice, you get a +1 attack. That's good. It's decent. Or you get a good old bit of protection where you only get 2 character dice attacking you.
All right, so if we're looking at the meta, is there any team that hurts?
Most of mine.
Yeah, Andy's well into long fields of sidekicks grinding me down. Yeah, I think there's a lot of teams that would harm. Your Dum Dum Duggan stuff.
Yeah, it hurts Dugan and it hurts sidekick teams, right?
Yeah, your Red Hoods. Thinking of it more.
Team up.
Anything with team up, definitely. It doesn't hurt Fix It. It doesn't really hurt like Malekith or Nobby. It hurts Malekith. I don't know what I'm saying. It doesn't hurt Nobby. Sorry. It doesn't really hurt Yanti, because those teams are looking to burn you out or push with like 1 character. Dragons, maybe. Maybe it hurts dragons, but you're really only pushing with like that 1 dragon.
What's the ruling with not being able to force people to do things? If there's the wasp with a force attack, so what happens if you had this out and then you use that wasp force attack label twice?
Then you would probably make it to where those are the only 2 attacking character dice.
Yeah, so you're picking and choosing who's going to attack.
So that would be interesting in that sense. This hurts Common Hulk if you're planning on running that team, because that team is looking to push multiple characters and trigger that effect of all the blockers and all that. But that's a really good idea of 2 force attacks, and then you kind of guarantee that you're not taking any damage, or at least you're not taking the damage that they want to give you.
Yeah.
There's an Insect Taunt Global, isn't there, with the Black Widow in the core box?
Yeah, there is in the campaign box.
I was thinking
exactly. That's the new. It's back because it had been gone before.
Yeah, and is it a fist again as well?
It is. Yeah. So it's a pay 1 fist. Target character must attack this turn if able. So we have that ability to kind of pair with this, and for that reason, I like this card and I like that specific side. I think the other side can probably just stay down the entire time. You could put this in like a 1-sided sleeve because you're not going to run the other side. You're just going to keep it on this one and control. What do you think?
Yes, I think so too. I agree.
Yeah, well, I could see that if you were going for a final push.
Oh yeah, if you want to flip it for that push,
final.
Sure. Oh, but it's a when fielded. You have to flip it and then field her at the same time.
Oh.
So for that reason, it would be a little harder. But you could still do it, certainly, if you line it up correctly.
It'd be very situational. You'd want it on the other face, and then
most of the time this stays on control.
Arose then to do that.
Yeah. I give this like a B, a solid middle of the road B, because it slots together on. I could see this slotting on some sort of a competitive team, just to, if like aggro becomes like a big thing, like physical damage, lots of characters, that sort of thing. If that goes and pushes up into like the higher tier teams, then I could see people slotting this on just for that combo that you mentioned.
Yeah, and I think it may have any meta shifting that happens with the Avengers Affinity, the broad, the 2 team packs and the box. Yeah. There's a lot of Overcrush going on. There's Infiltrate making a return, or some nods towards Infiltrate. So I think she may find she has a place.
Oh, this is great against Infiltrate too. You just make the sidekicks attack or something. That's really good. Yeah, I think she may find a place. So this is a B for me. What about you guys?
Yeah, it's a low B, but I'll roll with that for sure.
Yeah, I think in any kind of direct damagey team that you'd run, mate, I'm going to give it an A.
Really?
I know. Yeah, I get what
any like you play me every week. If you had that on your team every week, that'd be a right pain in the ass.
Yeah, I absolutely get what you're saying there, man. I suppose
I'd shriek that over Blob.
Sure. I'm just comparing it to Green Devil Mask in my head. A 4-cost thing that takes big fields out the picture, or Distraction.
It's interesting though. It could make a cut on several competitive teams just if that meta shifts in that exact way. So this to me looks like a B. Looks like a B to Chris, and then an A to Andy, making it on its way to some teams. So this is a card to look out for in this set. I think it's one of the better ones in this little team pack, don't you?
Yeah, you will be seeing this one, Andy.
Horrible art though, eh?
I don't know. It's a cool little armor thing, but a lot of this art could be better.
Yeah. It's got that kind of glowing claw thing going on.
Little strange fingers. I don't know if I want to shake her hand or anything, but the last Meteorite says precious minerals. And this one is while she's active, other than the beginning of your turn, when a character card flips of one of your active characters, flip this card. And if you manage to do that, then when you flip a character card, she gets +1/+1 until the end of the turn. And if you have at least three active Thunderbolt characters, Meteorite gains Overcrush. So if you can get her this 4-drop, you can buy multiple stuff. You can get her on the other side, and then just kind of jam a bunch of flips on the same turn. She can get multiple buffs and Overcrush. If you gotta set it up though, really set up.
Yeah, having 3 other characters in the field is.
So she counts herself though. She counts herself. So you need her. Yeah, okay. You need her plus like Ant-Man and I don't know what other good Mach 1. Like let's assume you put those 3 on a team, right? We could get a 3-drop or even the 2-drop we're about to talk about next. Like a 2 or a 3-drop, a 4-drop that has some benefit, and then this one, and a bunch of other flip cards. Like that could be like a build around kind of fun team in that sense, because then you have this ridiculous like 9/9 Overcrush character. Which would be kind of interesting.
Because it says other than at the beginning of your turn when the character card of one of your active character flips. So it's got to be one that's flipped, but not because it's just at the beginning of the turn. So you'd have to go through all the hoops.
Yeah, you'd have to play Bat Signal alongside this, certainly. Yeah. Or meet the requirements of one of those other flip cards, like you said. But if you do that, like throw Bat Signal plus like 3 normal flip cards, just some like vanilla flips or whatever, and then, like those cards that I mentioned, or even just a couple other Thunderbolts, of which 2 are coming up that I think are decent on this team, then she becomes somewhat achievable, particularly that fact that she's a 4-drop makes her a little bit better. It's a lot of hoops, though.
Yeah, it's too many hoops for me.
I'm not into it.
I can see this being a casual team win condition. I think that's the best way to put it for me.
Yeah, do you know, she kind of reminds me of in a weird roundabout way. Is that promo kit Robin that needed Bat Family characters in the field to make him unblockable?
Unblockable, yeah. Well, that one saw some play in some casual teams, though. That's the thing.
It did, to be fair, but I gave it a go myself and found it a lot of work to get to where I was going.
Certainly. It was more casual than it was competitive.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of in general, there are better Bat Family characters, than there are thus far Thunderbolt characters if we're playing in Modern.
By comparison, I would agree.
So I could see this being, for that exact reason that I mentioned earlier, a win condition on a like a theme team. I could see this being like a B-, because you would have to build around this for this to work. And the ability is enough of a payoff that it is a win condition. So I'd give this a B-, but just because B sort of equates to those things that I mentioned.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a C.
It's a middle of the road.
Yeah.
D for me.
Well, there you go. That wraps up Meteorite. And the next one we're going to look at, and the last 2 characters that we have, this is Songbird. This is the second to last we're going to look at. Caged Bird Sings is this one. It's a 5-drop, which is ridiculous when you look at the stat line. The stat line is an 012, 022, 123. So you better be paying 5 for a good ability. And the ability we get on the first side is when fielded, opposing character dice get -3A. And when you flip it, when fielded, deal 2 damage to all opposing character dice. Is that worth 5, gentlemen?
No.
No, it really isn't.
What about with your collector?
To bring it in and trigger one fielded effect, so you're paying,
I'm paying 3 for that.
Oh, you are, yeah. But then
I'm paying 3 to deal 2 one time to all opposing character dice.
For one more purchase cost, you could grab a Hulk Emerald Dawn or Power of Attorney.
And am I ever going for the -3 attack? No, not on a when fielded effect because it's not persistent. If this were persistent, I would consider it. You're paying 5 for a low body, but it's giving everything a debuff of -3. Persistent, then I would consider, but no, it's a when fielded effect on both sides. This card is bad. That's in my opinion. What do you guys think? What do you give it?
I could see the thing is, it's like a bad version of Shriek Dark Empathy. Because collector it in on your opponent's turn, if they're hitting with a big line, then suddenly everything is 3 less attack. But then you might as well just do Shriek and stop whatever's buffing them.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because there's no real teams out there outside of team up teams that are giving these massive buffs. Like Grodd isn't a thing anymore. And so they're either attacking with like 2 big dice or a bunch of small dice that just equal up to a lot of damage. And in the bunch of small dice situation, this card is okay to collector in on your opponent's turn. But in the other instance, like, you're still probably taking 8 damage somehow, some way. So I am not a fan of this card. I'm giving this card unplayable. This is an F.
Oof. Wow, right down at unplayable.
Yeah, I don't think this is... I wouldn't buy this.
If you knocked her down to a 4 cost, then that would be blinding. When fielded
for that exact combo,
2 damage to all opposing character dice. I think 5 just makes it a bit
out of reach, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if you run it with that global, that makes it a net 4, where you have to like pay 2 to reduce something by 3, and then you would pay 2 on top of that global to buy this for 4. But yeah, it's just, the collector combo is like its only saving grace, and that's still too expensive for its ability. So I like I said, I give this an F. What do you guys give it?
Yeah, you could have the F, sure.
I'm going to be less harsh. I'll probably give it a F/E.
right on the edge, right on the border.
Yeah.
Well, they're not all that bad. The next Songbird is a 3-drop. It's a flip keyword, and it says when fielded, KO target sidekick character die. And then when you flip it, intimidate, but Songbird can only use intimidate on character dice with purchase cost of 4 or less. And intimidate is obviously when this die is fielded, then you get to just remove a die, opposing character die from the field zone, and then it comes back at the end.
Oh, I hate the when fielded KO's target sidekick.
Nah, it's trashy.
Dull, isn't it? It's just like, just magic missile it off.
It's the same
sidekicks.
For reference. It's that same ability that we saw over there on Hawkeye. KO target sidekick character die. But this one has a flip effect, and it's got intimidate as long as you can use it on a 4 or less, which means you're intimidating out a sidekick almost every time, at least, or maybe like a 2-drop or a 3-drop, like a Shriek.
Yeah. I've not made good use of Intimidate in the past, and therefore I'm skeptical as to whether I'll make good use of it in the future with this Songbird. However, I can see it's got its place. There's plenty of 4 or less purchase characters that I could see bumping them out the field for a turn could be beneficial.
Well, the way that I've used Intimidate in the past on competitive teams is actually through Collector, and I've intimidated out villain character dice, bringing in, collectoring in Batgirl. You collect her in for 1, and it's the same purchase cost here. So you pay 1 bolt and bring Batgirl in and pull out Shriek, or bring Batgirl in and pull out Blob. This does the same thing for both of those characters, but this applies to everything that's 4 or less. So this could have actually hit Yanti or anything like that.
Yeah, the timing's not quite right for Yanti, though, is it?
No, it isn't, but that's certainly a meta card that you would want to get rid of for at least a turn or something like that. Especially if you were somehow running the mirror and you just played this card straight up and fielded it, Intimidate out, and then you do your attune things. It's a way to remove.
Yeah, Madam. Oh no, Intimidate got ruled as not when fielded as well, didn't it?
What do you mean?
Yes, it's a keyword, isn't it? Keywords aren't when fielded or when attacking.
Was there a recent ruling of that? I mean, it says when fielded on it, but again, it is a keyword, so I don't know if that triggers.
Yeah, I've got a. Somebody watching this will know.
They'll comment. They'll leave a comment, and we'll find out. Yeah,
but I'm sure this is your workaround for your Madam Masks of the world as well.
Oh, it is. It most definitely is. Yes, that is correct.
Infiltrate isn't a when attacks, is it?
No, that is correct. It is not a when attacks, so it can't be stopped. Those are keyword abilities, and so that Madam Mask won't nerf this. So I think this is a pretty strong in general card. I think it makes. It makes a little bit of an impact because it basically does the role of like a Batgirl, which was very fringe meta, but it makes it a little bit more powerful in that it just can target anything, not just villains. So for me, this is like maybe like a B, because I could see it on a team somewhere.
Yeah, I'd say B. I'd get rid of the first face. I think that's pointless.
Yep, just sleeve this on a one-side sleeve.
Yeah.
Chris, what you got?
I agree. I can see it's got a place, and I can definitely see somebody popping it on the team for sure.
Yeah. Last one is a 2-drop version of her. She's obviously got those same affiliations. 2-drop bolts, and she's just got flip. Does anyone value that? So this is literally a proc or a trigger for any of those. When one of your character flips, then do this thing.
Yeah,
I appreciate the fact that it's in the team pack, because you can kind of make a team out of it by having the 2 costs. So like the early ones, and I can't remember, but like the Doctor Strange team pack, which everything was just like 5, 6, 7, 8.
Right.
And it's like, oh, brilliant. Now that's a team pack. I can't actually make a team out of it.
No, you really couldn't.
So at least this gives you the ability to make a Thunderbolts team out of the team pack. And for that reason, I like it.
Wasn't Wong in Doctor Strange?
Yeah, but he was the only low drop outside of the Hex Bolts as well. It was like Hex Bolts, Wong. Oh, there was mindless ones. But then it was after that, it was all these like 7 drops, and none of them sort of synergized with each other. This, I agree. I think this one synergizes well, and I think it provides a little bit of extra triggering ability for some of these flip cards that we needed, because there just weren't enough. There's like several that do this, but that are like 3 or 4 drops in the Batman set.
Yeah, it feels more like a team pack. I know what you're saying in regard to Wong, and I still think that it sounded right, even though it was wrong. But it feels more like you could build a team. You've got the 2 costs, the 3 costs, the 4 costs, albeit that they're a bit crap. You have got the costings to build a good team that you can kind of ramp into and go from the 2 to the 3 to the 4 and then go from there. So I quite like it. It's all right stats as well.
Yeah. Stats are fine for a 2-drop.
I just think if you're building outside of the team pack, there's a multitude of better 2-cost bolts that you would pop in your team.
So this does fit on. There's a Catwoman out there that gets +1/+1 for every time one of your character cards flips. This is a 2-drop that synergizes with that, because you need a 2-drop, and you just throw this out there in the field and it can flip to trigger that. You don't even really need to throw it on the field. As long as your card's flipped and that thing gets the buff, it's a 3-drop fist or something like that. So this fits onto exactly that team. Outside of that, it doesn't really do anything. It's basically a blank text with a couple of affiliations. I guess the bouncing back and forth between affiliations is cool, but outside of that team, it doesn't do much, and there are better 2-drops. So what would you give this? How would you sum this up?
Limited, I'd give it a B. And then in the wider world of all the cards, a D.
That's a good way of thinking about it. I think that's the way I would think about it too. I think in limited, this is worth putting onto a team, so like a high C+, and then I would give it a D out there because it's a 2-drop, and 2-drops are way good in this game, but there's a lot of better 2-drops.
Yeah.
So it could average to a C, which is what, Chris, is that what you said?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at, just averaging it in at a C.
Right. So this feels like a C+ to me as well. So let's look at the last character. Last character is Techno, and this one's a 3-drop. This one's called Downloaded Consciousness. Yeah, Consciousness. Not Consciousnesses. That would be weird. Villain with the Thunderbolts on one side, and villain, of course. And a 133, 143, 144 stat line. I like this stat line better than any stat line in the set thus far. I don't know about you guys, but paying 1 is fine on all sides versus paying 2 on top. The one side has a tune. And then it says, when Techno uses a tune, flip this card. So that's really easy. And then we have this crazy global that's back now. It says, pay a bolt. Spin any number of your sidekick dice in your field zone or reserve pool to their bolt side. And if they're active, then move them to your reserve pool. That is an insane global. And then on the flip side, you also have a tune. And then it says, while Techno is active, your bolt character, your Thunderbolt character dice, character cards, and dice can't have their text ignored. And then obviously flip this over if he's not active. This card is crazy good for that global, if nothing else for that global. Like this card will see play just for that global on certain teams, because the ability to like take 3 sidekicks out of your reserve pool or out of your field zone that you've been saving up and just get like net 2 energy and then change whatever else you want as into bolts is just super good.
Yeah, I like this guy a lot. In the wider context of modern meta, but then in set he's got like a great in set side as well. He just I've had my eye on that 5-cost Pyro from X-Men First Class for some time.
Yeah,
which can make great use of those bolts.
Exactly.
Anybody who's played me recently knows I love churning bolts into my magic missile. That works lovely for that. There's a Firefly, I think, that does damage when there's bolts in the reserve pool.
Which I had once made a combo video about like a year ago when it was still pretty fresh, the Batman set. And it was just really wonky to try and get that there because you had to do like 2 steps in order to get bolts. But this way, you just field sidekicks or just roll sidekicks and then pay a bolt and you just got like 4 bolts sitting right there. And boom, you deal 4 damage when you field it. This card's really good, both in like really fun theme teams that work around some of those cards we mentioned, and just if you wanted to buy a 7-drop, you could field a couple sidekicks, pay this, and then like you can get to 7 fairly easy.
Absolutely, yeah.
What ignores text? Because Shriek blanks. Does she? Is that?
Yes, that's text ignored. Yeah, that's text ignored. We just call it blanking because we don't want to stay with the verbiage of the game. I don't know. Right. But yes, basically anything that blanks text means this can't, like on that side, that second side, Thunderbolt characters can't have that happen to them.
That's quite cool.
So this is a pretty cool card. There's obviously not a lot of Thunderbolts that you want to run in meta. But, I mean, if the Thunderbolts theme is good, this card goes on it, period. End of story.
Yeah, do you know what, though? I wouldn't be adverse to perhaps not a full Thunderbolt build, but Techno and the Unblockable Ant-Man.
Yeah, even just like 2 pieces.
He'll just sit tight, pinging some tune up, and then get me Unblockable Ant-Man in the field and just keep rolling him around, doing his damage unblockable.
And I think the fact that you're interested and are thinking about things you want to build with makes it kind of shows that this card is powerful and interesting enough to warrant, for me, a B+.
Yeah, I'm there. I think I can see myself doing stuff with this guy.
Yeah, he turns magic missile into like a magic machine gun, doesn't he? So
yes, he does.
I'd go like
right.
I'd go. I'm tempted to go A again, but I think it might have been a bit too generous. So B+.
He doesn't win the game for you, and so for that reason I wouldn't push. But this card is really strong, and it almost might make it onto competitive teams just for the global alone. Not to mention that he could technically sit out in the field and take a couple of attune procs if you're running against Yuan-Ti Pureblood. If that deck is still even good. If it's still even good, I mean, who knows? The next one is Paul Norbert Ebersol. 3-cost bolt, same sort of thing. When fielded on one side, it's got the flip. When fielded, or if Techno is active when flipped to the side, your Thunderbolt character dice cannot be targeted by your opponents, so targeted by anything, period. Anything that says target can't affect your Thunderbolt character dice. And then on the other side, if you flip it, it says when fielded, or if Techno is active when flipped to this side, your Thunderbolt character dice cannot have their damage prevented by opposing effects in any way, shape, or form.
It's quite nice with the overcrushy ones. Yeah. And the things like, what's the Poison Ivy? Red, that stops anything any further overcrush. Is that?
That's right. Yeah, Poison Ivy Red will come out in that Harley Quinn team pack and do that. This is counterplay to that. Yeah, exactly. Even just the one side, if you had a couple Thunderbolt character dice you don't want to be targeted by anything ever, like no shrieking, no blobbing, anything that's like a single target or multiple targets. You can't ping it with globals. You can't target it with any global, no distraction. You can't push it back. Kate Bishop global, one of those Ant-Man dice. Just can't be targeted.
Works, doesn't it? Because you can have that on that, well, you can have it on that face whilst you're building up and getting your characters out and buying what you need. And then when you get where you want to be, you can flip it over. And when you start attacking and doing the overcrush and attacking with them, then you've got some protection against anyone trying to stop it. I like it.
Yeah, it's a cool card. Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, so my head's still in the space of if I was going to use a Thunderbolt win condition like the Unblockable Ant-Man, this one may be more favourable to the previous one. If I'm fearful of my Ant-Man getting magic missiled off or distractioned back, you know. So I can see him having a place in that instance.
Well, it might even be better because it can't be blanked either. So it blocks all three of those things, right? Globals can't affect it. Blanking can't affect it. Like, when fielded, deal X number of damage to target character die, can't affect it. Like any of those things, because they're all targeting.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a rigmarole flipping it all the while, isn't it?
But you do have to field this or flip the card while this is fielded to the right side. So there is that aspect of it where it has to happen sort of there. It's not a pervasive effect in that sense.
No.
So based on all of that info, what do we give this one?
If I'm running a Thunderbolts team, then it's definitely getting on there. The likelihood of, so if you just play in the pack that you bought and then you want to play the game with it, then you chuck it in there. But in all likelihood, if you're playing a bit of constructed, then D, E.
Ooh, D or F. E.
It's only going to work if you've got.
It only works if Thunderbolt characters play. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I could see it being on like even just a limited constructed team, like if we all sat down and said single affiliation like you mentioned before, I could see this being on that. So I would probably give this, it's playable like a C. Maybe with the very, very limited, if we're all playing in set in like exactly this set, then I would slap this on and I would give this like a B. But it would be between this one and the other one. I certainly would agree.
Yeah, only in set can I see myself really going for it. Otherwise, I'll average it out at a C.
All right. Last one. You ready? Last one is the fixes in. We're ending on an interesting one. Or are we? We'll find out. So flip character. When fielded or if Techno is active when flipped to this side, target Thunderbolt character gains fast. That's a target character die, And then when you flip it, when fielded or if he's active, when you flipped to this side, target Thunderbolt character die gains plus X attack, where X is the number of active Thunderbolt characters. How do you guys view fast personally?
I like it.
Yeah, I like it, definitely. I've made use of it. I'm a big fan of that War Machine, Rhodey, from the Iron Man War Machine set. I've made good use of him in the past. And the aforementioned Wong, of course, is...
Although it's a good defensive tactic, and you're not going to be able to use it defensively because it's only going to be on your turn, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's when fielded, yeah.
Or when fielded or flipped. So you're never going to be able to kind of block and do damage and knock something out before they come through.
I will say though that this is interesting in that fast is only given to that die to like for that one turn, so you give it to one die, one target character die, not even the character, like the card doesn't gain it, so all dice gain fast, but it's just one character die gains fast, and then it goes away. So that's when you field this or when you flipped it. Do it once, and then you kind of have to reset it up. So for me, fast doesn't pay off enough for me to justify this. But you could, I mean, it's only 3, and it's got good stat line for a 3. It's got a 4/4 side. So maybe this is worth buying multiples and trying to trigger that when fielded effect multiple times. It's interesting. Certainly something to think about. Do you guys care about the plus X attack side? I personally don't. I'll say it right now. I think that doesn't get enough value for being on that side. I mean, you're giving like 1 character die plus 2 maybe on average.
Yeah, again, if we were playing within the set, it might be quite fun, but I think the other 2 versions are better, that you'd never actually want to
that's
out and put it on the table.
And that's the point, isn't it? I suppose you've got the other 2 rarities that would, if you're laying the 3 out and trying to make a decision, you're going to go for one of the other 2 over this one, aren't you? Really?
Yeah, I think so too. So I'll give this one a C, middle of the road. I could see it being powerful in certain instances or giving you some amount of power, but I don't really see like jumping at the chance. I mean, if you saw this in some sort of a draft, it might be worth taking because it's playable.
If you cube draft in, or and I'm forced into having it, I wouldn't be like, oh my goodness, it's all over now. You could make it work in set. Yeah, otherwise I'd be picking one of the other 2 for sure.
Yeah, I'll go C.
C.
Yeah, I'm giving it a C as well. All right, gentlemen, so that is the full extent of this team pack. Overall impressions of this team pack as we wrap it up.
I'd probably say a little underwhelmed. I like that the Thunderbolts have had a little boost to their ranks. I'm always a big fan of affiliations getting a little ranks boost to make it more thematic. I think that's where Dice Masters can be really magical. But in comparison to the Kree Invasion pack, which
it doesn't even stand up.
Yeah,
it doesn't even stand up. I agree. I think it's got interesting things. I think it creates itself a team. Like you can buy this and you can just put together a team. And for newer players, this is probably a better pickup than the Kree Invasion team pack, because you could just take this out, throw 5 of these down or 6 of these down, and boom, you have a team because it's all synergistic. But general power level for me is a lot lower than something like even really the Avengers Infinity box. I think is more powerful than this.
No, I think it just falls short of actually being a proper team pack, like Pokemon when you get a pack and you can just play it. It's really close. I think the cards, the 2-cost Songbird, your 3-cost Techno, your Mac 1 at a 4-cost, what's the other 4-cost that was all right? The Doris with the burning hand, Meteorite. That's all got the build up to quite a good team. What it lacks is the kind of big hitter. So the 6-cost, the Atlas, and the guy with the white weird mask, Citizen V. They don't give that final hit. You've got all the basics of it. So you've got your small ones that do a little bit of annoying protection-y little kind of jinky things whilst you're building up your dice pool and rolling them and getting the extra energy to buy the bigger ones. Quite kind of standard, so without too much building up to your higher characters. Right. And then when you get to buying your higher characters, they're a bit kind of lackluster.
Well, I will say that the 6-cost Atlas that gives all of your Thunderbolts Overcrush is not bad in that sense, and it's easy to get to that side. And there is there's a villain side on just about every one of these Thunderbolts cards, and there's a Citizen V that gives all your villain character dice +1 and Overcrush. So if you value like Overcrush as your win condition, then it meets it in that criteria. But those hoops, especially for Citizen V, are hard to jump through. Playing an action die to flip Atlas is not too bad, though. I could see that being your win condition out of this pack. In fact, that's probably what I'd slam down on the table. If everyone said, okay, crack this open and make something, that would probably be my 6-cost win con. After, unblockable Ant-Man doesn't work out for some, reason.
Yeah, I think if they got rid of the flip and the hoop, so it just had a 6-cost that gave you Thunderbolts Overcrush, or a 6-cost with, +1 attack and Overcrush, then I'd buy this pack.
Sick.
And just for fun, you get out, you play a themed Thunderbolty team. It kind of works and synergizes together, and it wouldn't be kind of top end competitive, but you'd have fun with it.
That'd be pretty good.
Yeah, it's just a shame that that it's just caught short on the kind of top end big guys.
Yeah, they are really interesting design choices, aren't they?
I think it plays well in some aspects to younger, newer players, and then I think all of the like conditional hoops that you have to jump through are also a little confusing for younger, newer players. So it strikes a strange chord in that sense, where it's like, who's it for?
Yeah.
So
I'm wondering if it marks a movement towards these sort of tribal synergies in the next rotation in June, though.
That'd be kind of cool if it did. I like the idea of that being a part of the game. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I'm thinking about some of the spoilers that we've seen for the 40K.
That's true. The Avengers stuff is really strong, I think, coming out of the Avengers Infinity Pack. Any Avengers affiliated characters worth a look at now.
Yeah. So right. I'm wondering if that's marking a sign of the times for the future.
So final thing, let's do this final thing. I want you to give me your number one card from this set. Pick the one card that you think is the most powerful and maybe most meta worthy from this set. So think about it for a while, and then whenever you got your answer, feel free to chime in.
Oh, I'm on it. I already know.
I already know.
Lay it on me. Chris.
Techno, downloaded consciousness.
And why?
So 3 cost to tune, so he's got a good space to slot into a number of meta team builds at the moment. The return of the Iceman Bolt Global, I think, is going to open up a couple of other options that are perhaps needed, just a little something else. And I think his stat line is pretty good for his purchase cost. And he's a villain.
Yeah. Andy, what do you think?
I'd go for Meteorite Dr. Carla Sofa, and your opponent cannot attack with more than 2 character dice. Shuts down half of the gameplay.
Yeah, it certainly does, doesn't it? When they can't choose what they're attacking with, and you could do that with a global and then say nothing else can attack, that is really powerful. I agree. That's got some play.
Anyone who's doing an aggro combat orientated attacking team, you're making them have to do something to that first. You're making them have to ping it off. You're making them have to shriek it. You're making them have to do something to get rid of that before they can do what they want to do.
Yeah, that's a good call. If I had to take my pick, I think I would end up going with I love that pick. I think that's a strong one. My heart says the Ant-Man that has the aggro playability is really good. The one that just when you spin it up, then it's unblockable, especially for that aggro team. So I'll go ahead and pick that, even though I think your pick is also really strong. Both of your picks, I think, are really strong for both reasons. I don't think we even mentioned the fact that it's got a tune on that Techno, which is really strong. But I think this one plays well on the Avengers aggro that's coming out with ID card and any of those types of things. So we'll see if this has some playability on that team going forward. But those are all 3 good cards that you would look out for in this coming set. So that's that. I think we've covered everything that we need to cover.
So be sure, folks, to check out the Ministry of Dice podcast. If you need to find your way to it, go to britroller6.com, where you'll find it in the news feed there, or find it on your usual fruit-based device podcast feed readers, or your Japanese technology. It's me and Andy. We just chat rubbish, really, and then occasionally throw a bit of Dice Masters related content in.
The way it should be, right there.
I know, yeah. I've really sold it there, haven't I? I made it feel
that's a good sell. Well, I think I'm gonna go listen right now.
Well, let's think of the benefits. If you think British accents are sexy, come on down and listen to the Ministry of Dice. Give me some of the benefits. Andy, why would people listen to us?
There's not that many other podcasts out there that talk about Dice Masters.
That's a good sell. There you go. That's the sell right there. Is that we're cornering the market, right? There's not many others to choose from, so you might as well pick us.
Might as well listen to us.
And you've already listened to the double burst for the week, and you've got nothing to listen to
because
Ministry of Dice.
we'll slot in. We're great second placers, is what you're saying. Well, thanks for coming on and hanging out with me and talking about these cards. These ones were tough to evaluate, but I think we did the best we could, right?
Well, thank you so much for having us. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Have a good one. We'll see you again next time.
Bye.